for the consideration of the Midnight Society. We're gonna take you on a journey of time, space, and really just the 90s.
We're gonna talk to you about our favorite episodes, awesome trivia, and casting choices that made us go, what is that?
I'm Whitney Van Laningham.
And I'm Kris Carr.
And this is Nostalgia Trip!
Before we take you on this road trip, we want to give a special shout out to our super nerd sponsor of the day, Some Assembly Required 75.
Thanks to heroes like you, we get to keep on keeping on another day.
Now, on to the spookies.
We're gonna talk about spooks.
Yeah. Now, Whitney, if you're somebody like me who didn't watch Are You Afraid of the Dark as a kid, I thought I did. I watched Goosebumps. I painstakingly explained an episode and was like, there was this botanist, and they go to the basement, and there's plant people, and then my neighbor was like, baby, that is Goosebumps. You did not watch the right show.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, Goosebumps. So if someone's like me and does not remember this show from the 90s, what is Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark was a show that used to terrify me to no end as a child. I slept in my parents' bed way too long, and it was 100% because of this show. So basically what happens is there's a group of kids called the Midnight Society, and their jam is going out into the woods in the middle of the night, setting up a campfire, like you do, and each one of them each week tells a different super scary ghost story. Okay. So basically what happens when they vote you in as a new member is they lead you through the woods with a burlap sack over your head, because that's not a group of 12 serial killers. And then they basically plunk you down and make you tell a story for everyone.
My biggest takeaway from watching this show was that no one cared about where their children were.
Oh no.
You could do whatever the hell you wanted in the 90s.
They were
wander in the woods, go do anything, buy a box of cigars. You're 13.
You're 13,
live your life.
Figure it out. Yeah, no, it's very bizarre. And like, that's like the thing too, is that they're portrayed as like 5th graders, right? Like 5th or 6th graders.
Yeah.
Like what? Like it's midnight and you're in the forest. Stay out of the forest.
The only thing I remembered from the show going into this, honestly, was the whole campfire situation and throwing the magic sparky boom boom into the fire. And then I learned this week that was non-dairy creamer they were throwing in there.
Really? Because I assumed that it was the ashes of a child who told a bad story that they cremated.
That would have been so much cooler.
That's what I think it is. I think it's a bag of dead children ashes. I think that, you know, because like the burlap sack and everything, I think that once the Midnight Society is over, they sacrifice the member who told the worst story. So like when they don't vote people in, I think that they kill them, cremate them, and use their bones to ignite their campfire.
See, that'd be so much cooler. But
Fan theory.
Then I read non-dairy creamer and glitter.
And glitter. Well, that sure is
So you
sweet.
put some arts and crafts in there,
You just
so that's nice.
You start getting real crafty up in there.
Yeah.
Real crafty up in this business.
It's a pretty diverse cast for the most part too, with the people they cast in the episodes themselves and in the group. So much so to the point that this show got nominated for an NAACP award for diversity.
It did?
It did.
That is great.
It's bonkers that this weird little show was like, this is the highlight of diversity in media. Good job, you guys.
Great job, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Way to go, Canadian programming. It's so crazy to me. And then also, with casting these kids, I thought this was so weird. The creator of the show, he specifically asked for non-Disney kids. Did not want them. Did not want apple pie freckled children.
So you don't want hot children, is what? You don't want the children to be in any way bangable.
Instead, we got these monotone uggos, I guess. I don't know. What are you looking for then?
Great. Fun. They're looking for Harold Ramis's body double.
Basically.
That's what they're looking at.
But then you cast, what's her face? The prissy girl of the group.
Yeah.
She ends up being the Flight of the Conchords' most beautiful girl in the room.
Hey.
Yeah.
Well, hey.
She was Cher in the TV show Cher.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, dude, I totally forgot about that.
I thought for way too long that one little guy in there was Squints from Sandlot.
Yeah.
And was like, Squints is in this? This is crazy.
Whoa.
Why did he pretend to be dead for Wendy Peppercorn? He could have just led with I'm in the Midnight Society. And then it wasn't him, and I got real disappointed so fast. I made myself so upset with my fake trivia. I'm fake news.
By far the scariest episode, and this one is always the one that is on like the top of people's lists whenever people make lists of the scariest episode of this show, but The Tale of the Lonely Ghost. Do you remember that episode?
Oh, with the creepy little girl. God, children are terrifying.
Children are terrifying. It was a horrifying episode. So In case you guys don't remember that one, what happens is there's a city cousin and a country cousin, and they spend the summer together. Their names are Amanda and Bethy, and Amanda is like a normal person, and Bethy is a raging monster.
Worse.
She sucks. She is the meanest, most horrible person. She like lives to play pranks on her friends. She's like one of those queen bees that's like nasty to everyone. So she tricks Amanda into spending the night in a haunted house next door. And while Amanda is she tells her basically that she can't hang out with any of them for the rest of the summer if she doesn't do this.
Okay.
So
Normal.
average, cool. So she locks Amanda into the haunted house overnight. She makes her sleep there, and while Amanda's there, she starts noticing that there's the words "help me" written on the wall in front of her, and she finds a mirror, and in the mirror there is a little girl, terrifying, dark hair, white gown, pale skin, sunken eyes, insane eye bags. Girl, get some concealer, you know? Oh, you need it. And she comes haunting out of the mirror. Amanda does exactly what I would do. She curls up into the fetal position and starts crying and screaming and freaking out. And the little girl just slow walks over to her like Michael Myers and stands over her holding a locket. And it's so, I'm getting goosebumps. Look at it! Because it's so scary. I'm serious. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. This is real. I'm terrified of this.
Crazy chicken skin
I'm
on you.
actually terrified of this. So she ultimately finds out that this is the little girl of Nanny. And Nanny is Bethy's grandma, I believe.
She's her nanny.
Oh, that's just a nanny?
She's just her nanny.
Oh, I thought it was like her
Bethy
grandma.
the whole time is like, I'm too old to have a nanny. This is ridiculous. Why is she here?
I thought it was her actual grandma. Never mind. See, I don't remember everything either. So it's Nanny's daughter who had died and was lost forever. Well, she thought she died. Apparently she's in this house.
She's just in the Doctor Strange mirror dimension.
Exactly.
Hanging out.
Pretty much. Amanda comes back, shows Nanny the locket, stops her from leaving, and when they go back to the house, it's actually Bethy that gets trapped in the mirror. And so that's when the little girl comes out and attacks her. Now Bethy's trapped and they have to find a way to get Bethy out. But it seems like the rules of the mirror are that if someone comes out, someone else has to go in. So instead of locking Bethy in there forever, Amanda tells her that she'll let her out if she promises to be nice, and then both Nanny and her daughter go back into the mirror, allowing Bethy to come back out and stop being a
That seems to be the big kind of moral thread throughout the entire series is if you're an you will get got by goblins and ghouls.
You will get haunted so fast if you're a dick. Don't be a dick.
And if you are a ginger, you are positively evil.
Oh yeah.
Every bully in this show is a ginge.
It's true.
Tia and Tamara Mowry show up in the episode The Tale of the Chameleon.
Yes, The Tale of the Chameleon. They show up. There's a couple of other celeb sightings. Hayden Christensen is in The Tale of Bigfoot Ridge.
Yeah.
So that's baby Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. Before he hated sand, he hated snow.
What? And then, oh gosh, who's the other person?
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan baby Gosling.
So the show, which I think is really interesting, the whole we don't want Disney kids, blah, 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 blah. They wanted him to be in the Midnight Society, and then Ryan Gosling picked Mickey Mouse Club over that gig, which
really?
Right move, Ryan. You got to hang out with like baby Britney Spears. Good
cool,
job.
Tight, yeah.
And then he still appears in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? But I mean, a quintessential Disney kid of the time is on that show.
That's so funny. That's so weird. I would have thought that Ryan Gosling was too hot of a child.
For sure.
He was way too sexy of a child.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Song, keep it in.
Keep it. Just kidding. No, I would have thought that Ryan Gosling was like too good looking for their weird standards of average kids.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I don't understand.
I was an average kid. I would have been an Are You Afraid of the Dark? I would not have been a Disney kid. I was real not cute when I was little.
You would have been a great bully on this show.
I would
with full headgear.
Full headgear, 100%.
Rocking it.
I'd be a scary.
I'd be amazing. One of the things I read about is that originally this show, no one wanted it. No one wanted this show. They're like, there's no point. Scaring kids is bad business. Don't do that.
Scaring kids is bad business.
Bad. And then Nickelodeon got new people in suits, basically, where they were like, yeah, why not? This sounds like a good idea. But the initial show, too, was going to be parents telling kids scary stories before bed. And then they were like, well, that's stupid.
That's just bad parenting.
That's bad parenting, and this is going to be boring. Like, the creator was like, yeah, we realized how boring that was, so we changed it to kids hanging out in a graveyard.
You don't want to hear a really cool story from your dad.
Just,
no.
all right, here you go.
Yeah, no. Like, you want to hear creepy shit from your friends.
Yeah. Well, and
it's
as we established
relatable.
already, I mean, parents were terrible in the 90s. No one's tucking their kids in.
No one was.
They're out seeing theater, you know? They're not taking care of their kids. They're letting them wander the woods and living their lives. Well, we're talking about spooky stuff, guys. Do you want to get some cool t-shirts like one like Whitney has, where you can summon demons?
Yeah.
Some other really rad swag for Halloween? Well, then head over to TeePublic. We've got a great affiliation link down below. Click it, go get some t-shirts.
Yeah. The episode that I remember the most out of all of them, this episode is called The Tale of the Doll Maker.
I already don't like it.
And it is the scariest thing I have seen in my life to this day. When I was a kid, I had a dollhouse that my grandfather built for me that looks exactly like the dollhouse in this episode.
I was about to say this is cute and sweet, and now I'm horrified.
Identical. And I had my parents move it to the garage. For 6 months, I couldn't play with it. I couldn't be in the same room as it. It scared me so bad because I was convinced that what happens in this episode was what was going to happen to me. In this episode, there is a little girl who comes to the country and she's visiting her aunt and uncle. She comes on weekends sometimes, but she hasn't been in a while. And her best friend in the whole world lives next door to her aunt and uncle, and her name is Susan. And so Melissa is visiting. She expects Susan to be there, and Susan isn't there. Her aunt and uncle tell her that she moved, but Melissa kind of doesn't buy it. She is very suspicious. She thinks that Susan would have told her. She thinks that she would have waited for her or whatever. So she starts snooping around in their old house. She stumbles upon this dollhouse and she's looking at it. She's very intrigued, and her aunt comes in and snatches her away and tells her that she cannot play in there and that Susan is not coming back. And she finally clues her in to what actually happened to Susan. And what actually happened to Susan was that Susan disappeared. She went missing. Ooh. And so her parents could not bear to live in the house any longer, and they moved because there were just too many memories. But they kept the house around so that if Susan did ever come back, they would move back too. So with this missing child, you would think, hey, maybe don't let your niece, Melissa, who's the same age as Susan, just run around loose, because what if there was a kidnapper? You don't know that it's a haunted thing yet. What if it was just a kidnapper or a serial killer who got her? Don't let your kid play there. But anyways, one night she wakes up in the middle of the night and she hears Susan calling her to come. So she goes back to the other house. She goes into the attic and starts looking into the dollhouse, and the next thing she knows, a door opens and she's able to see Susan inside, and she enters the dollhouse. And very smart girl, she brings with her like a thing of yarn so that she can tie it to the doorknob and find her way back out.
Oh, okay.
Super, super smart to do.
Yeah.
And when she walks in and finds Susan, she discovers that Susan has been trapped in this dollhouse since last winter, and that she has almost entirely turned into a doll herself. She finds her face is porcelain, her limbs are falling off because she's so delicate and fragile.
Ooh.
She can't move or walk, she can barely speak, and chills.
Oh my God!
Full body chills. Full body chills. I've never been more scared of anything. Melissa's talking to her and her hand just falls off. And it's like, oh God, and she picks up her hand and stuffs it in her pocket. And I was just like, oh God, oh God, oh God. So it turns out that when she goes back to the ball of yarn, the door has disappeared and they are trapped inside.
No.
And she can't get out, and she sees her aunt through the window of the dollhouse, and she's screaming and screaming, we're in here, please. Susan and I are stuck, please help us. And nobody can hear her. So she has to figure out a way out on her own. Luckily, the dollhouse is mirrored exactly the way that my grandfather intended it to be. So, just kidding, it's modeled out. It's modeled after Susan's house.
Okay.
So Melissa is able to find the trap door that leads to the attic in her real house inside the dollhouse. She has to carry Susan's fragile, slowly crumbling body all the way from the kitchen in the dollhouse, up the attic stairs, and onto a window ledge. And she's sitting there with her porcelain best friend who's becoming more and more of a doll every second. And they realize that the only way to get out is to jump out the window of a second-story building. So they're sitting on the ledge, and if they fall, Melissa will totally die and Susan will shatter into 1,000 pieces and will never be able to be put back together again.
Yeah.
Because she's porcelain. So 2 little kids sitting on a ledge, losing it, they're both gonna die. They jump. And they live, thankfully. Susan turns back into a normal person as soon as they escape the dollhouse, thank God. They run back to the aunt and uncle, who I assume immediately call the police and seek medical treatment for Susan, who hasn't eaten since last winter.
Yeah.
But is somehow still
Do her
alive.
limbs get all reattached?
Yeah, her limbs get all reattached.
Whoa.
Yeah, but she jumped out of the window with her hand in her pocket, so I don't really know how that got stuck back on there.
You suspect.
Yeah,
Right.
very suspect. But thank God that's how the episode ended. But I still hate it.
That's horrible.
It's so scary. What if you turned into a doll and your hands started falling off and I couldn't save you and we had to jump out a window? Please don't ever let that happen.
I knew I wore big sleeves for a reason.
For a reason. Put it in your pocket. Just stick your hand in there. Cool.
Yeah. When your limbs fall off.
Just get it.
That's why the 90s had so many fanny packs.
It's true.
To just carry your limbs.
Oh my God, easy.
Yeah.
For those times when you turn into a porcelain doll by
and
accident.
now they're coming back, so guess what else is?
Guess what else is?
Losing your limbs.
Losing your limbs.
That's a messed up episode, and I don't like that at all.
I don't like it
I never
either.
want to watch that.
I won't make you. It's too scary. That one, I would rather you watch it with me than that
I was just
one.
gonna say, you want me to watch it more than you want me to watch that episode.
It still haunts me. It still gives me like full body chills, gonna die, still feel like that.
I'm so glad we've added so many more no-nos to my list now.
I know. This is just a big series of no-nos for Kris.
I still don't fundamentally understand the point of being scared.
So are there any stinkers?
Well, okay, so this one I wouldn't call a stinker, but it is so funny. This is an example of something that I think is hilarious.
Yay.
It's scary, but it's also kind of just like, oh my God, this is so weird. So there's this one episode that I call Get Out by Jordan Peele. And
All right.
it's the Tale of the Captured Souls, and basically it is a little boy who's actually like 100-something years old, and he drains people's youth who come stay at his bed and breakfast. So he's just this little kid running a B&B, and the dad comes and they're playing baseball, and he's like, I'm gonna zap you of your baseball powers. And so he takes the dad's baseball powers so that he can be really good at baseball, and then the dad starts getting too old. It's very weird. He has like a soul cylinder in his attic where he keeps everyone's souls, and he gets in there and does like light radiation therapy with all the souls to keep him super young all the time. But he's just jerking off in a soul chamber. It's really terrifying. It's so bad. It's like the funniest, dumbest thing, and I love it so much.
Stupid.
It's so cool.
Well, there's the Tale of the Dream Girl, which
I don't remember that one.
So this is an episode that supposedly inspired M. Night Shyamalan to make The Sixth Sense,
Okay.
which is bananas. I don't understand the sentence that just came out of my mouth, you know?
Are
So-
you afraid of the Bruce Willis in the
It's
dark?
This guy isn't noticed by anyone except for this girl who's dead, and then, oh my God, ghost!
Oh no!
But can you imagine M. Night Shyamalan being like, all right, I watched the show in the 90s. I'm gonna dog-ear this episode, and I'm gonna use this to make possibly my greatest masterpiece
Of all time!
based on this dumb show about kids who hang out in a graveyard and tell spookies.
That's amazing.
Like,
That is
in
so
what
good.
world? In what world?
I just didn't realize that like M. Night Shyamalan watched Nickelodeon.
He didn't watch it enough because he botched Avatar. Guys, the important thing here about Nostalgia Trip is, what do you remember? Let us know in the comments down below what your favorite episodes were or what ones sucked.
My favorite part of any episode was in the Ghastly Grinner. There's a little girl and she says, I'm kind of a nerd. And her friend says, no, you're not. Don't say that about yourself. And she says, I think it's really important to know who you are and work with it.
Aww.
And that's how I feel about Nerdwire. That's how I feel about what we do here. It's important to know that you're a nerd and work with it.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for going on this nostalgia trip with us. We'll see you at the next exit.
Bye.